guys, welcome back. So today I'm out here shooting my Springfield XDS. The Springfield XDS is a handgun based on the popular XD series of handguns, but this is an ultra subcompact that's very slim because it's a single stack handgun. We're going to take a closer look at this handgun this afternoon and give you some thoughts. Let's talk about some of the features of the XDS handgun. First of all, let's take a look at these sights. The sights are really good sights. The front sight post has a glowing red dot. Now this is just a fiber optic front sight, but it is mounted in steel. The rear sight has two dots. They're non-tritium. They're just painted white dots, and again, it's a steel rear sight. They are both dovetailed, so you can easily change the sights for something else if you'd like to. The pistol also has a loaded chamber indicator. When the weapon's loaded, this will stick up and you can just run your finger across the top of the pistol and tell whether or not the handgun's loaded, even when it's in your holster. It's a really nice feature. Has really sharp and aggressive serrations here on the slide, which makes getting a good grip on the handgun, the slide anyway, to load it and unload it, very easy to do. The trigger is very similar to a Glock trigger, which it's kind of based on, but also it's the same trigger as you'll find on other XD handguns. This trigger is slightly different internally though, when it has a really short take-up and it has a very short reset. It has a really good trigger for such a small handgun. Not that that has anything to do with it, but you'll notice the trigger's back. Now when I go to reset it, notice how short that travel is. It has a really great trigger. The handgun also features a grip safety. This is very similar to a 1911, but it's also a feature that's found on the larger XD series of handguns. You'll notice it's somewhat truncated. It's very short, so it doesn't come very far down the grip frame. Right below it, this little tiny rear back strap is actually user replaceable. There's just a pin in there, and it comes with a second one when you buy the handgun, and the second one's just a little bit bigger. A slightly larger palm swell for hands that are a little bit larger. The checkering on this handgun is very aggressive, so it's easy to get a good purchase on the handgun. You'll notice that they're very defined teeth, but they're not sharp, okay? So it's not going to hurt your hands. Also has an accessory rail up here in the front, so you can put lights and other things like that on the front end, on the dust cover here on the front of the handgun. The magazine is a 5-shot magazine. You can also get a 7-shot magazine if you'd like as an add-on. It's like 40 bucks or something like that, and I'll show you that magazine here in a few minutes. The magazine, one of the features I really like about it is that when you go to pop the magazine out, you'll notice, watch, it'll shoot right out of the gun. It really is a positive ejection. And what's really cool is even when the slide's locked to the rear, you'll notice it still kicks that magazine out. So when you go to change mags, it's very simple to drop the magazine out and stick another one in and make the weapon ready to go again. Field stripping the XDS is really simple. But there are some things that make this pistol unique when you compare it to other XDs on the market. First of all, you'll want to make sure that the weapon's clear. To do that, you'll want to drop the magazine out of the handgun. The magazine does have a magazine release on both sides of the handgun. It's an ambidextrous magazine release. Here you see the button on the left-hand side of the pistol, and here you see it on the right-hand side of the pistol. You hit that button, drop the 5-shot magazine out. Now there is one difference that I was talking about. If you don't drop that magazine out, you won't be able to field strip the handgun. I'm going to put the empty magazine back in the gun. I'm going to lock the slide to the rear as though I'm going to disassemble it. And this is the takedown lever. If I push up on it, I can't push it past that point with the magazine in the gun. Once I drop the magazine out of the gun, I can turn it to the takedown position. Also, once it's in the takedown position, if I try to put the magazine back in the gun, it won't go in the gun. That's one of the built-in safety mechanisms that's different than the standard XD series of pistols. Once you have the slide locked to the rear and you have the disassembly lever in the up position, you release the slide, let it go home. And just like many other striker-fired handguns, you'll want to pull the trigger once the slide is right about there, release the striker, and the slide will come off the frame. Inside the slide, we have the recoil spring. Comes out just like that. The barrel, just push up on the hood, and it will come out the rear just like that. To reassemble, you just reverse the process. Put the barrel back in, put the recoil spring back in, the slide back on the frame, draw it to the rear, lock it to the rear, return your takedown lever to the home position, and the handgun is back together. Another option for the handgun is the 7-shot magazine. This you can put in the pistol to replace the 5-shot magazine. Of course, it gives you 2 extra rounds. Once it's inside the handgun, you'll notice it extends the grip length considerably, making this handgun as big lengthwise as a full-size handgun, but it does give you 2 extra rounds. If you guys watched my Shield review video, I talked about one of the things I didn't like about the extended magazine for the Shield. Unfortunately, Springfield made the same decision. They just have a slip-on grip extension that slides up and down the body of the magazine with relative ease. If you go to put this in your pocket as a backup magazine and you don't have something that's keeping it in the extended or all the way down up against the base plate of the magazine, you could find that it makes loading the handgun difficult. So, in my opinion, I wouldn't use this as a backup magazine unless you had a magazine pouch carrier that held it fairly high up to keep this in place, or you could do something like glue this in place so it doesn't move. My preference is just to take it off and not use it at all. It does alter the grip a little bit, but it still feels pretty good in the hand, and I think it would make a better backup carry option this way. The slide is melanite treated. The melanite process is very similar to the tenifer that's used on the Glock. It's a very durable finish. This gray finish that you see on the metal parts here matches the polymer lower very nicely. However, that is not the tenifer. I'm sorry, the melanite. The melanite is below this surface finish. The melanite will make this handgun very resistant to corrosion and wear. It's a very hard surface treatment. The handgun has an overall length of 6.3 inches, so it's only 6.3 inches long. With an empty magazine, it weighs 21 ounces, 21.5 ounces. With a full magazine in it, you're about 1.9 pounds. It's a pretty heavy handgun when you have 5 rounds of 230 grain ball in the handgun or hollow points. When you buy your Springfield XDS, you'll get this nice hard case. Inside, you'll find the handgun, 2 magazines, 5-shot magazines, a lock, a magazine carrier, and a holster for the handgun. This handgun is the all-black version, and you can pick it up for right around $600 to $650, depending on where you shop online or at your local gun shops. I did buy this handgun from my local gun shop, Bly Sports in Valparaiso, Indiana. The handgun is also available with a 2-tone finish, which is slightly more expensive. The magazine carrier that you get is typical, has a belt loop on it. It's polymer. It's the same magazine carrier you'll get with other XD series of handguns. Has a tensioner on it. It's of okay quality. And the same is true of the paddle holster that comes with the handgun. Has a tensioner on it. It's just polymer, and it is a paddle holster. You can't change that, and it's set up for fairly wide belts. But again, it's an okay holster. It gets you going until you can find something perhaps a little bit better. One of the things I always thought was a bit goofy with the Springfield magazine carriers, they put these 1913 style rails on the side, so I guess if you want a light for your handgun, you can store it there. I don't know how practical that is. I never really cared for the angle at which these hold magazines either. I prefer them to either be straight up and down or raked forward or back or something like that, but having one going 2 different directions is just kind of strange to me. You'll also find your extra back strap that you can put into the rear of the pistol. Just a pin you drift out to change the grip. This one's actually thinner than the one that's on the handgun. When choosing a holster for the XDS, I went to PJ Holster. PJ Holster makes really nice holsters based on Kydex. I've read a lot about them, but I've never owned one, so I decided to buy one when I bought the XDS. The PJ Holster is right here on my side, and you can see I can easily reholster my handgun. The PJ Holster is made out of 1 piece of Kydex, and it fits the gun very nicely. You'll notice it has a sweat guard here, and the belt loop is folded over out of the same piece of Kydex that's folded to make the holster itself. So again, the whole thing is made out of 1 piece of 2 mil thick Kydex. It's a very comfortable holster to carry. Now this one has a slight 10-degree rake forward, and it also sets fairly deep in my pants. Both of these options are configurable when you order your holster from PJ Holster. You can adjust the cant, you can make it more aggressive, you can make it straight up and down, and you can also adjust the ride height. You just have to tell them how you want your holster configured. One of the things I like most about it is that I can take it out of my pants very easily and put it back very easily. Drawing the handgun out and putting it back is also easy, which is great for doing practice drills. Now, another thing that I have is the PJ holster inside the waistband magazine pouch. However, I'm wearing it outside the waistband right now. I'm just trying to get it off my belt here so I can show it to you. This is the spare magazine pouch that goes with this handgun, or I'm sorry, with this holster. Now, the holster can be purchased for $50. That's shipped, and this is a $15 accessory. It holds a spare magazine for the XDS, which you probably want to do because it only holds 5 rounds. Now, this is designed to be carried inside the waistband, but you can also carry it outside the waistband, which is what I'm doing out here this afternoon. So you can reload the handgun fairly easily, and it works very well with this pistol. I'm very impressed with the PJ holster. Shooting the Springfield XDS is really surprisingly manageable for such a small handgun in such a large caliber. Now, there are some things I do like about the pistol, and there's some things I don't like about the pistol, but let's talk about the positive attributes. First of all, the pistol feels really good in the hand. It fits perfectly, it sets nice and deep in your hand, and even though your pinky, or at least in my case, hangs off the bottom, I still feel like I got a good grip on the handgun for the 45 ACP chambering. I can keep control of the handgun. The sights are awesome. That front sight glows like a bright red dot. It's very easy to pick up, so when you're shooting with both eyes open in a self-defense type situation, it's very easy to pick up that front sight and put it right where you need it. The handgun, again, has surprisingly mild recoil. Let me show you how I can hold on to it, fire 5 rounds relatively quickly. You notice the handgun doesn't have much jump. Now, if you're not used to shooting a 45, it may feel like it has a little bit more kick than you might be comfortable with, but once you get used to it, getting it under control is really, really simple. It doesn't hurt your hand at all. Now, another thing that I talked about was the 7-shot magazine. Those are the 5-rounders I was using. Here's the 7-shot magazine. For range practice and things like that, this is awesome. It really gives you a good grip on the handgun. It feels like a full-size handgun, even though it's still only about 1 inch thick and it's fairly narrow. But it gives you a lot more to hold on to. I don't think that it makes it really that much more controllable, but it definitely feels better in the hand. I've also found that the handgun has been reliable with a wide variety of rounds. I've put 1,000 rounds to this handgun without cleaning it before shooting this review this afternoon. I've had 0 malfunctions with the handgun, and you'll notice I'm out here shooting 230 grain ball rounds. These are my reloads. They're not exactly hot. It'll also cycle semi-wad cutters. I'll show you that here in a few minutes. It's absolutely amazing that this little handgun will cycle semi-wad cutters. Those wad cutters typically mess up 45 caliber handguns, anything other than a 1911. I've not had real good luck with them in Glocks, FNs, and other handguns like that, but it does run just fine in this little pistol. You'll also find that most hollow point ammunition loads run just fine in this handgun as well. I've had, again, 0 malfunctions with the pistol. Now let's talk about some of the things I don't like about the XDS. Actually, there's one big thing that I don't like about it. When I go to draw the pistol, you want to get a good grip on the handgun. If you don't do that, if you grip low, now the weapon is loaded and ready to fire, but you'll notice I'm pulling the trigger and nothing's happening. That's the grip safety not being disengaged. Now, some people may think that I'm nitpicking the handgun, but I've seen this happen on the range before with other shooters. You don't get a good grip on the gun, you're in a hurry when you draw, and you go to pull the trigger, nothing happens. I'm not a fan of the grip safety. I wish it wasn't on the handgun. I believe they should have left it off. Everything else about the handgun, I actually like. I think that the ergonomics are good. I think that the sights are outstanding. I think the shootability of the handgun is good. It's just that grip safety. Now, if you remember my review of the shield, which I have here, the one thing that I didn't like about the shield was the manual safety. The reason I don't like the manual safety is because on striker-fired handguns, I choose not to use a safety. I prefer not to have a safety. When you're drawing the shield, you have to practice disengaging that safety even if you don't use it, because if at the moment of truth you draw your weapon and it's inadvertently been knocked in the on position, if you don't practice brushing it off, now your handgun's not going to fire. So you always have to train to disengage that safety. It's the one ding I don't like about the shield. However, if I had to pick which one I dislike more, it's the manual safety. I feel I can train around the grip safety on the XDS. Overall, I like the ergonomics of the XDS more than the Springfield. Now, I'm sorry, than the Shield. Now, the other thing I don't like about this handgun, which I'm sure will be remedied in the future, is I don't like the chambering. If I had my choice, I would pick this in a 9mm versus a 45 ACP. In a handgun that's small, I'd rather have that round or two over the supposed knockdown power of the 45. The accuracy of the XDS is actually pretty good as well. It's a very shootable handgun. I'm by no means a match shooter with this little handgun. I'm still getting used to it even 1,000 rounds in, but I can keep them all dead center. Pretty easily. Again, the recoil is very manageable. However, I am shooting the downloaded semi-wad cutters right now. That's my reload. But you can see on the target downrange, I'm chewing the center out of the target. Overall, I'm very impressed with the shootability of the XDS. Speaking of the semi-wad cutters, I had to pause there for a second so I could reload my magazines. Here are the semi-wad cutters. These are 185 grain semi-wad cutters. Again, these are rounds that typically don't feed in anything other than a 1911. Let me show you how they work in the XDS. It's lock and the slide to the rear. They're not very hot loads, and it's functioning 100%. Again, more of the semi-wad cutters. As soon as I say that, it's a reload problem. That round I kind of had to seat it in there because it was set just a little too long. But anyway, my reload, semi-wad cutters, and 100% functioning. It's time for some final thoughts on the XDS 45. Overall, I'm very impressed with the XDS 45. Now, if you guys are a fan of my channel, you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of the XD series of pistols. However, this XDS has changed my opinion of the XD pistols. 100% reliability with everything I've fed it, hollow points, ball rounds, semi-wad cutters, and 1,000 rounds without cleaning. This handgun has performed better than I'd expected. I've actually wound up carrying this handgun quite a bit. I used to carry the Shield quite a bit in the summer, but this thing has been riding in my holster on my hip more than the Shield as of late. I'm very much a fan of the XDS 45. For around $600, I think it's an outstanding carry option if you're in the market for a subcompact handgun such as this. If you guys have any questions about the XDS 45, you can ask those questions on our Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/military arms. As always, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for the subs. We'll talk to you guys soon.